everybody, welcome back once again to the channel. The live stream right here on JJ's PC Builds. We got a little bit to unpack today. Let me pull this mic closer. We got a lot to unpack today, so make sure you got your drink and snacks, by the way. I know I do. And also, too, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. It helps the channel out. So, I want you all to hear something really quick. We're just going to jump right into it. I want you all to hear this really quick. So, we're going to go to the action screen, and I'm going to play this.
This is an undercovered story. Pat Gelsinger nerds just said that they are not focusing on dedicated graphics moving forward.
What?
Guys, go watch my Intel has effectively, underline the word, effectively canceled ARC. I said Battle Mage would come out. There might be a single Celestial die. It's going to be a downward winding down of the stuff they've already been working on for years because they're already halfway done. Pat basically just said that they're not focusing on dedicated GPUs much in the future, which they've already only made 2 dies last gen. So what do you think that means? I mean, the one thing that Pat said that pissed me off, though, was he said there will be less demand for GPUs in the future. Yeah, your shitty GPUs, dude. Okay.
Alrighty. I wanted to bring that up to y'all real quick. I caught that from Moore's Law is Dead. I don't know what y'all are thinking about that. You know, I'm like, wow. Let's see. Intel processors, CPU processors, aren't going so well because 9800X3D just plumped it out of the water. They're having problems with 13th and 14th gen still CPUs. Graphics cards, Battle Mage, that's iffy now. They're going to discontinue the ARC line. Take it with a grain of salt until we know for sure. So, just to let y'all know that. Yeah, it's kind of scary. So, let's go ahead and jump back to the action screen and see what else I got cooking. Alrighty, let's get a little bit of talk on about this. The 5090. This is from WCCF Tech. And it says specs, performance, price, and availability. Now, I don't know. Seems like this is going to be another shady deal too, because I've been hearing on the chat line that there, now we got the big arrow, that the prices might be a little too high for affordability. Okay, so this says Nvidia GeForce 5090 slated to be Team Green's flagship offering. Blackwell GPU lineup brings performance levels deemed impossible. Deemed impossible. Here's everything you'll need to know about the upcoming GPUs, including specs, prices, and performance. So they say it's slated out for Q1 of 2025, which is January. And let's see. We want to get to the juicy part of it. We want to know about the pricing of it. We just want to get into it completely. Starting specifications of Nvidia GeForce 5090 is said to feature the PG144/145 SKU30 PCB design, which will house the heart of the GPU also called the GB202-300-A1 GPU core. Now, the GPU is rumored to have 170 SMs enabled, so out of total 192, that and will be featured 21,760 cores instead of the total of 24,576 cores, marking a 11.4% reduction of the total power available on board, which is slightly higher compared to the GeForce RTX 4090, which stood at 11.1%. The GB Silicon series is said to be breakthrough in terms of GPU performance thresholds, and the following detail is even more interesting. So, well, the memory VRAM is an area that is said to feature massive enhancements with the GeForce RTX 5090, since Team Green has decided to bump it up overall to 32 gigabytes of GDDR7 RAM, running across a behemoth 512-bit interface, reaching overkill levels. Wow, that's a lot. Apart from this, the GPU will feature 128 gigabits per second operating speeds for up to 1,792 gigabits of bandwidth. Wow, that's even better. Because I think, what was it? The 4090's at 1100. Nice little bump. Or close to it, could be. But. And you compare, like, the 4090 featuring 21 gigabytes per second speed and 1008 gigabits of bandwidth. Oh, it was 1008 gigabits of bandwidth for the 4090. So, that seems like it's even better. It's going to have a 600 watt TBP rating, TDP rating. I don't know why they do that. And against the 4090 marks a 150 watt increase, which massive generational leap. That's going to be troublesome for the 12 volt high power, because it's only 12 volt 2x6, and for it to handle 600 watts. Now, if y'all remember, the 4090 had that burn up spell of the 12 volt high power connectors. So what it's looking like down here says power connector. It says 1x 12 volt 2x6 16 pin. So it doesn't look like they're doing the two high volt connectors that everybody's claiming. That's interesting. That is interesting. But it's rated at 600 watts. And they got the 4090 right here. Let's move it up a little bit more. Okay, best it's going to get. Okay, so you got your Blackwell 5090 right here. Looks like process nodes, it's going to be 4 nanometers or 5 nanometers. TSMC is 5 nanometers. Same as the 4090. Blackwell GB202/300 and Ada Lovelace for the 4090, the AD102-300. CUDA cores is 21,760 compared to 16,380 The SMs are at 170 compared to the 128 on the 4070. Tensor cores is to be determined. They don't know exactly yet, but on the 811 lace it's 512. RT cores, the same thing, to be determined. They don't know exactly yet, but the 4090 is 128. Clock speed based in boost. They got base level at 2900, but still undetermined. And the 4090 is at 2235 at the base and 2520 at the boost. Which, guys, I want you to understand something. Hey, good evening, MTBK. Good to see you. Good to see you. I want you guys to understand something. My 4070 on an overclock starts at base level 2520. Now I'm going to show you why. Show you why right here. 2520. And it's sitting idle right now. So for them to have that at their boost clock settings, boost clock here, boost clock settings, that's nuts for the 4090, which I know it can go a lot higher than this. So unless you didn't get the OC version, you're missing out on, extra little bit of perks. That's the reason why I say get the OC version, get the overclock version. And from what it looks like here, could be something. Could be something, could be a good thing. But till we know what the to be determined is, we don't actually know where they're going with this. Okay, and the base clock, I'm not too sure of on that as well, because the thing is this. Okay, knowing Nvidia, they're only going to bring you up close to 3100 megahertz. If that's the case. That's what everybody's been talking about. Where they got to be determined. Everybody's talking about 3100 megahertz. That would be 3.1 gigahertz. Knowing that my 4070 can hit 3090 megahertz. Can hit 3.09 gigahertz. So, not 09, 3.9 gigahertz, somewhere in there. Okay. Can hit, I was working towards getting it close to 3.1 gigahertz at that time. But if I go over 3090 megahertz, what happens is that it will start to get into a crash mode. So 3090 was as far as I could get it, because it only draws 200 watts and it's restricted on the 4070. The wattage is restricted, so it can't go above 209. I know I've tried. So, but all in all, let's see what they got for pricing. Let's see what everybody's talking about. Everybody's gibbering and jabbering about. Okay. Let's see. 2024. The price is to be determined still. They don't know. All the pricing's to be determined. Looking at the 4090 at $1,600 MSRP. Some people are saying the 5090 is looking like to be between $2,000 and $2,500 US dollars. And The 5080 is looking at being, was it 1400 up to $1,800, and the 5070 was looking at between 800 and 1,000. That's what they're saying. And the 5060, they were putting it at around the price of $600 to $700. That's what I was hearing. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt, or you can take it with gold, but I have a feeling that that's where they're going to put the prices up to. You know, could be that, it could be a little bit more. Who knows? TDP stands for thermal design power, and I think it's just the energy transfer to heat. So 600 watts TBP, thermal board power. Yeah, I know, bro. I mean, you look back at some of the other graphics cards, they put TDP, and some they put TBP. You know, it's just a whole bunch of just say total watts. Total watts. Max consumption. I mean, make it easy for, you know, beginners to say, okay, it's this. So, to me, I think 600 watts on that connector is going to be too much, and they're going to have more problems. They're going to have more problems with it than anything. I really think they will. I mean, I really think they're going to have a lot of problems with it. So, you think it's going to be capped at 600 watts? You know, don't get me wrong. It could be capped like they did the 4070 and capped it at 200 watts, but it still draws above that. I still got 9 more watts above that to draw. So it's like a little buffer thing. So even if they're drawing it at 609 or 610 watts, that connector is not going to handle it. Hey, machine, good to see you, good to see you. You didn't miss that much. I wanted you guys to go back to the beginning for a few seconds and look at that first little clip that I put in there about the Intel Arc and Intel Battle Mage. You're not going to be happy with what I'm hearing, and I posted it to you guys. Moore's Law is Dead posted out on a short clip about the Intel Arc and the Intel Battle Mage. So you might want to look that up too. But with the 5090, I mean, you look at the price going back from 2017 to 2018, $1,200. 2018 to 2019, $3,000. 2019 to 2020, $2,500. 2020 to 2021, $1,500. 21 to 22, $2,000 to $1,500. You can see where this trend's going. 2022, 2023, $1,600. 2023, 2024, $1,600. Now you guys can see where the trend's going. They're going to end up hitting the trend at about $2,500, bet you any money. Could be a thing. So, Moore's Law is Dead is saying Intel doesn't focus on discrete GPUs much. Jay, play this clip. Play. played a clip of this. Yes, you're right. I did play that clip because I wanted you guys to hear it. I don't want you guys to be blindsided and thinking that, when it comes to Intel, that they're going to be putting their whole 100% on their GPUs. Something tells me that they're not. Something tells me that they're not going to put their whole 100% into Battle Mage. So they said they only put 6 months in. They only put 6 months in to the Arc. Intel Arc. And that was it. You can quote me on it if I got it wrong, but I think that's what I heard him say, that for the Intel Arc that they only got 6 months in, that they got 6 months to go or something like that before all the drivers are fixed. So it's crazy. Machine says I'm not buying an Intel GPU if they're not going to be making them anymore. Well, I think what it is the problem is that now that Intel is cutting away the foundry, they're not making them. They're having TSMC make them because of the cost. It's cheaper for it to outsource it like these other companies are doing. But now that, all these loyal fanboys of Intel liked Intel because they were making everything in-house. But since they had all that drama with 13th and 14th gen, making it in-house, I guess they just threw their hands up in the air and said, I had enough. And they might just go back to just making CPUs or APUs for laptops. They might just drop out of the discrete graphics cards altogether. So, and plus they're not even finished with the Arc series. They don't have everything up to date on the Arc series. I don't see how they can make Battle Mage when they don't have the Arc finished. It makes no sense. It's not business effective. It's not cost effective for business. So, with it not being cost effective, that's a problem. Just like when they tried to skim on 13th gen CPU processor. Turn around, they skimmed on it. They turned around, they had 2 or 3 problems inside of that CPU. And now, they might have to go to court twice on this. Who knows? Or there's rumors out there that, Qualcomm wants to buy Intel. There's rumors out there that Apple wants to buy Intel. There's rumors out there that AMD wants to buy Intel. It's a lot of up in the airs. I'm doubting AMD with GPUs now as well. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, let's see. Let's see where, let me get that out of here since we already talked about that. Okay, let's go back to the action screen. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, see this? AMD prepares Hawk Point refresh. Ryzen 200 APUs featuring Ryzen 7 255H and 260H. These are the laptops. Well, the companies can talk to each other and decide not make 2 products that compete against each other directly. Well, That's what they're probably doing, and looking to 2025 or sometime at the end of this year that they're supposed to release the 8800 XT graphics card for AMD. There's been a lot of talk about it. Some people saying they're going to do it. Some people say they're not going to do it. It's all up in the air. What is solid is the 5090. Okay. What is solid is the RTX 5090, the 5080, and so on from Nvidia. AMD, I don't know what they're doing, if they're going to be solid or not. Some people are saying that they're going to take and focus on Strix Halo and get an APU on it and make it more powerful than an RTX 4070. And 9 out of 10 chances they're going to use that for laptops. Does nothing for a discrete graphics card. If they decide to do anything for a discrete graphics card, I think Intel and AMD are dropping out slowly out of the market. That's what I think. MTBK says AMD Hawk Point refresh. Hawk Point to Hawk Point 2 Zen 4 based. Yeah, but the thing is the Zen 4 based, I think that's gonna be nothing for laptops. But what's got me looking around is for AMD Halo. CPU. Okay. Let's roll over to Tom's Hardware. AMD Strix Halo being tested with 128 gigabytes of RAM. Shipping records reveal more about extreme 120 watt APU. Looks like it's purchased in India. Looks like they got it looks like they got it, they're doing it. Computer parts, heat sink, Strix. Wow. So, previously reported with 32 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes of RAM. The 120 watt TDP chip. Previously revisions remain on the newest variants. So this is the one they were talking about that's supposed to be really good. Okay, so currently leaked forms seem stronger than AMD's current gen APUs, powering PlayStations and Xboxes. So the Strix Halo APU is expected to be multi-chip package thanks to the die-to-die Infinity Fabric interconnection AMD is known for. Two separate CPU dies will live on the chip together with a GPU die. CPU portion of the APU will be 16 Zen 5 core that turbos up to 5.8 gigahertz. Whoa. With a 64 megs L3 cache while graphics be powered by up to 40 RDNA 3.5 cores at X16 PCIe 4.0 speeds. The processing and graphics will also share a 32 meg L4. What? L4? Must be something new they're coming out with. Now there's an L4. 32 megs L4 Infinity Cache. Strix Halo will also reportedly come up with a NPU, neural processing unit, capable of 70 tops, breezing past today's AI PC minimum specs. Wow. That's nuts. Let's see. So Ryzen 7000, Ryzen 8000, then Ryzen 200 series. It makes sense compared to Zen 5 laptops. CPUs are the 300 series, pretty much. 120 watt TDP in laptops is not totally unreasonable with or without discrete GPU. Well, it's all built into one, man. It's all built into one. 5.8 gigahertz is the same clock speed a Raptor Lake i9 14900 HX can boost its clock speeds to. Yeah, but you have to understand one thing. It's not so much that what I think they're trying to do is AMD's trying to catch up with Intel, because with Intel and some of their processors, their K processors have built on APUs. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch up the market with the APU. But if they do that for a desktop PC, that's the reason why people are not going to be buying graphics cards anymore. They'd rather buy a CPU with an APU that has, integrated graphics. A CPU with integrated graphics that gets the same performance even as a 4060 or 4060 Ti. They would be happy with that. Especially if they put where you can share system RAM, like 16 gigabytes of system RAM or 20 gigabytes of system RAM or more with that APU. That's even running greater than using a discrete graphics card at that point. Because in a discrete graphics card, you can't change the amount of RAM, the VRAM you can use with that discrete graphics card. Not unless you take and add chips to it. Adding, VRAM chips to it. But using an APU and using a higher set of RAM that runs fast enough, it'll keep up with the integrated graphics. It'll run pretty fast. So gaming might be a lot. It might be to where you don't have a discrete graphics card in your system anymore. It's running everything integrated graphics. Just like they do on the Xbox or the PlayStations. But you get more advantage to where it's running faster and you have upgradability on desktop. So I think it might be a good thing. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I think it might be a good thing. If the mass market demands APUs, then many game studios have a problem with their ridiculously high system requirements for the games they publish. I do agree. What about the heat it produces? It'd be no different than the heat it produces with, you know, a discrete graphics card. But having one that big, you're still going to need a 360 millimeter or greater AIO cooler or full water cooling. I know that, to keep the temperature down at around 60 to max 70 degrees Celsius. So yeah, you're going to need something that's going to dispense the heat. Because they've taken a CPU and they've added almost a full GPU to a little square box that they call a CPU die. It'll be interesting, I will tell you that, if they do it for desktops. It will be interesting. It just makes it more interesting when it comes to that. You know, to me it made it more interesting. Okay? Because now you got one less component that's hooked into your system. Now you got one component that might draw up to 250 watts. Or maybe 200, or maybe 150. Who knows? They say for laptops it'd be about 150, but you know, in desktops they're going to have it go up to at least 200 watts, or 250, or somewhere close. So, if the iGPU load is 100%, the cores have little to do. Of course, because of them being so close together, they got more travel time, but more reaction time. So basically the information will flow a lot faster on integrated graphics than it would having a discrete graphics card, because now you got to take the information from the GPU core, you got to run it all the way through the wires, go up through those PCIe connectors, then you got to go up through all the little wire traces that are up in the board, and then it goes into the CPU. And then it's got to go all the way back down. You know, it's what causes your latency. But with it built right onto the GPU being built right onto the CPU, it has less travel, should have low latency, should have no problems. The only where you would get the latency would be the amount of speed of RAM that you would use for that integrated graphics with CPU. If you're going to do it, you might as well take and get a CPU like that with the integrated graphics, and then have like 8,000 megahertz RAM. That should be enough to, you know, put the pedal to the metal, as you would say. If the iGPU load is 100%, even for most high FPS esports games, so they won't pull 200 watts or something like that. Easy to cool. Yep, pretty much. I agree. Yeah, in general, iGPU or APU, as AMD calls them, have an advantage in efficiency and latency down, memory bandwidth up. Yeah, they do. Because now you're not using VRAM off of a discrete graphics card. You're using system RAM that's shared with your CPU. Your CPU and GPU are shared. That's not a bad thing. Not if you're running 128 gigabytes of RAM, running it at 8,000 megahertz. That's enough speed right there to take and push that integrated graphics just as fast as if you got a discrete graphics card in your computer. So that's what I think. Sometimes the graphics use the last level cache, sometimes the cores do. Yeah, but think about it, bro. If you got enough cache built onto that CPU that it shares with the GPU, it'll have less travel back to the system RAM, which will make the games run a lot faster with lower latency, if that makes sense to you. Because now it has less travel to hold that little bits of information. Now it can share with the cache that's for the CPU. And if they put 128 megabytes of cache on that CPU, then they can split it between 64 and 64, and it's still being fast enough to run the integrated graphics full tilt, I think. So, but who knows if they're ever going to do something like that. But to me, I would give the benefit of the doubt and use the built-on cache that's onto the CPU and treat it like it was part of the virtual RAM that's built onto your PC that it can share with and extract that information faster to make that integrated graphics work a lot more efficient. They do it like that, then there'll be like latency will be so low that it would be insane. Because it doesn't extrapolate that much. You just got to worry about the textures and all that to what it extrapolates to. So, but if they split everything just right, yeah, you could do that and run low latency. So, yeah, some StarCraft 2 particle effects would fit well into Broadwell's i7 5775Cs, 128 megs of L4 cache, loading to a better iGPU performance compared to a i7 6700K in this game. No, I agree. But if they're thinking about what I'm thinking they're going to think about, then this new Strix Halo is going to be one of their best integrated graphics CPU that they've ever made. And they're talking about some serious craziness on that, you know. But what's more crazy is this. This is what everybody's worried about right now. Everybody's worried about AMD to lay off 4% of their workforce, or about 1,000 employees. Now, what that means is that AMD said on Wednesday that they will lay off 4% of its global staff. That means all across the world. So if they're doing 4% overall, that's one thing. But if every business they're doing 4%, that's another thing. That's like a lot more. AMD has 26,000 employees at the end of the year, according to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing. So, AMD is the second biggest producer of GPU processing units, GPUs, behind Nvidia. But what else is being said is that they're laying them off because of their bottom line. And a lot of people that are being laid off are pissed off at this point. Just to let you know. So, MTBK says the HD 6200 was bigger in size and number of execution units as well, compared to Skylake HD 530 graphics. But the L4 cache was more crucial. HD 530 is feature king through DirectX 12 capable. But I bet you it's a bigger die too. This one's a smaller die. So they're trying to fit everything on a smaller die than what that one was back then. So the size does matter. Machine says, that is what I'm worried about. Bro, don't worry about it too much, because I'm going to tell you, knowing AMD, they're only going to, and way the leaks are going right now, they're only going to reveal one discrete graphics card for next year, or the end of this year, who knows. But I'm only seeing one so far. They seem to be only doing one-on-one. So basically, they put out one, test it out, see how well it sells, and then they might put out another one. Just like they did with the 9800 X3D CPU. They put out the one, so that way they'll see how well it sells. If they want to go up to the 9950 X3D, that'll be their next choice. They're doing one step at a time, instead of putting them all out there like they've been doing over the years and not making a lot of money in the sense. So that's what's being said too. Right before the holidays, buying season in America. Yeah, I know, bro. Look, they're overstocked on CPUs in the market. They're overstocked in CPUs in the market. There's plenty of CPUs out there. There's plenty of GPUs out there. There's plenty of motherboards out there. There's plenty of RAM out there. Overall, there's plenty enough PC parts. But until they sell them all and get it narrowed down to a very small margin, they're not going to really put out a lot. So yeah, Christmas this year doesn't look like it's too promising when it comes to PC parts. MTBK says AMD lost more employees before when Bulldozer didn't succeed. Yeah, I do agree. I remember that. Oh my God, that was a nightmare. But it looks like they're having a new nightmare, and it's called that they're not selling too much out there. Companies are not really buying anything. The reason why I keep saying this, if they're not innovating from fresh, from buttstock start, they don't start from, flat playing field and build up one new product and put it out there. They're not innovating. They're not putting product out there. They're just giving you a refresh of this and this and this. Now the 9800 X3D might be kind of an upgrade to the 9950X. Could be that they're using the 9950X and they're putting extra cash on it and they're calling it the 9800 X3D. You never know. So companies don't like to lose money. If they can sell a product any way they can, they will. And if they got to attach something to that product, they will. So And not all RTX 5060 Ti's dominating everything. Yeah. Well, the 50 series is going to be dominating this year or next year when it comes out. So 2025s look like it's going to be the year in the beginning of fresh. So hopefully it's going to be. Machine says the only thing I don't like about Nvidia is the lack of VRAM. Well, I think they're kind of making it up next year for the new GPUs. Now, hearing that they're putting, people are reporting that they're going to put 32 gigabytes of VRAM on a 5090, that's kind of giving me the plus ups that they might put 16 gigabytes of VRAM on a 5070. But you're going to look at a bigger price tag because it's now GDDR7. It's not GDDR6X or GDDR6. It's GDDR7. So it's going to be 1.5% faster than GDDR6X. Keep that in mind. Let's see. Nvidia makes a better product, but them hamstringing us to the VRAM force us to buy up the stack. Yeah, I know, bro. I mean, I understand that. I mean, but you got to look at the pluses and minuses. I've had my GPU, my 4070 for what, almost 2 years? I know I said almost 3 years back then, but no, it's almost 2 years. But it's still running. I have no system crashes. I have no problems with mine running it whatsoever, no matter how far I push it. Even if I push it up to its very limit, it still doesn't crash. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm not going to complain if a game, if a game plays at 40 FPS, if it still runs well and it's not, like I said, there's two things I'm worried about when it comes to a discrete graphics card. One, if it's artifacting, or two, if it's frame freezing. Those are the only two things I'm worried about. If it's giving me a clear picture and it's not frame freezing and it's not artifacting, good enough for me. But when you dig into it and you get this hype of I want more, I want more, I want more. How much more do you want? Right now, the way games are sitting, 40 series is like it's at the tipping point of 70% of being good enough to run games. It's at 70% right now. Unless game developers move up their game with the new games and make them harder on the GPUs, then it comes down. Once they get to like 50%, or 50 or 40%, that you got that much usage left of playing games, then it's time to change. It's time to get a new graphics card. So, that's just my opinion. Overstock seems likely. RX 7600 GPUs is $229 here. New, including VAT. Bro, they're overstocked right now. Before when the pandemic happened, there's a bunch of chaos and they weren't making enough GPUs, and it turned around that there was a shortage. Now, way things are right now, there is no shortage. Right now, we're overpopulated. We have way too much graphics cards out there. That's the reason why they're not selling, because people done bought whatever they wanted. So it's not in everybody's wheelhouse to buy an update on a graphics card. If you got a 40 series graphics card now, there's no reason for anybody to go any further, because they already see the results. They already know how the card's going to react. So the one they're using now, they're going to be happy with it, like me. So that's the reason why I'm not upgrading. So 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes starts at 440 euros here. And PC games hardware has the courage to recommend it. That's a lot of courage, MTBK. That's a lot of courage. Not see, that's the thing. The 8 gigabyte and the 16 gigabyte version, only 1% in between each other. 1%. And, you're paying what? $100 more for that 1%. You might get 8 gigabyte more RAM on that card, but you're still getting 1%. You could put 5,000 gigabytes of FPS on a card. But if you're still getting that 1% from the last gen, or the last making of that card, what are you gaining? You're not gaining anything. So that's why sometimes VRAM for a graphics card can be a good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing. So, if the graphics card is balanced, then it'll work just fine for you. Like mine is. My 4070 is balanced. It's got 12 gigabytes of VRAM, yes, but it still works. Okay. Machine says for 1440p, I'd have to buy a 5080. Why? You have to let me know on that. Why? Pretty much any 40 series graphics card will give you 1440p. Just going to tell you that. Machine says, I have been very happy with my RX 6800. Hey, if you're happy with it, you're happy with it. And it's not bad for $360. No, can't complain about that. If it's working for you, that's all that matters. And I told you that many a times. I said, if it's working for you, then go with it. You can probably go up one more generation before you get, your card gets to the point where you gotta trade it in for something else. MTBK says Doom runs on a P test. I'm not gonna say what it is because YouTube. So it depends on the game and how lit it is to run. Yeah, sometimes. Depends on the engine that they're using for the game that really pulls down hard on your CPU and your GPU. Now, if it's a CPU dependent game, then yeah, you're going to need a little bit more CPU power, but as long as you got the GPU power, some of your little bit older CPUs from AM4 will still work. Like me, I got an AM4 processor with a 40 series graphics card, and it does fine. So, machine says only 1% if you don't use the VRAM. Yeah, but either way you're going to look at it, you're still going to use 1 gigabyte of VRAM no matter what. So, even when you load onto the game, you're using more than 1 gigabyte of VRAM. When you go to play the game, you're definitely using more than 1 gigabyte of VRAM. So, unless you're sitting idle, where you're not using your PC at all, that's the only way you're going to get to where you're not using any VRAM. Well, you might be using just a little bit, just for the display setting, your desktop setting. So, could be using up to 500 megabytes of VRAM. 80 more euros right now for 16 gigabytes instead of 8. Well, that's not too bad. Here they got $100 difference. Here they got $100 difference. Unless they're running a special or a sale. But going by MSRP, there's a $100 difference between the two. Originally. You need the 16 gigabytes to run FrameGen and RT. Yes and no. One, I don't use FrameGen and RT all the time. See, now some people like to use it, yes. Me, I'll use it once in a while, so it's not a necessity. So I really don't have to worry about the amount of RAM I'm using. Even if I pull my GPU up to 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I'm still going to have a cushion on the back end because I have an additional, 16 gigabytes of VRAM on the back end from the system. So I got the 12 gigabytes of VRAM on the card, but I got 16 gigabytes of VRAM on the back end. So I'm not worried about it. And I know everybody says, well, you know, you're not going to get much speed. You're going to have little hiccups and everything else using the system RAM. Yeah, okay. I haven't had a problem yet using it, so I don't get it. So I don't have a game that features FrameGen and ray tracing, but I might get some decent results with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. If I reduce the textures, pool size, in the game configs. True, you can. You can get it all the way down to 6 gigabytes of VRAM. You know, if you want it just, you know, balance it just nice, you can run off of 6 gigabytes of VRAM. And then have 2 gigabytes on the back end. Machine says the games I run use more than 12 gigabytes of VRAM at 1440p high. So that is why I will need a 5080. Okay. Well, you know, bro. Yeah. But since I use 1080p, it makes my CPU my CPU work a little bit more than my GPU. And yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. So basically my CPU is working a little bit more than my GPU is. So if I decided to go to 1440p, yeah, my GPU is going to be working a little bit harder. And I'm going to get a little less frames. But I already expected that. I already know. So, but I seem to be happy at 1080p. I don't care what anybody says to me. If you guys think that 1080p is bad, you tell 70% of the whole world that it's bad. 70% of the whole world that uses 1080p and tell them it's bad. I hate to tell you, even some of your professional gamers use 1080p because they get better performance. You know. So, something to think about, guys. This, where somebody says to you, oh, you're using a 4090 at 1080p, it's not going to work for you, this and that. Well, let me give you a little hint. When the 4070 came out, they said, oh, DLSS was not going to work for 1080p. That's a lie. That was a ruse. That was smoke and mirrors. That was fake. Okay. I know if I can put my 4070 at 1080p and still get great frame on my, monitors, and everything looks good the way I want it to look, I know the 4090 will do the same as the 4070. Because remember, the 4090 is, one half. Basically, the 4070 is one half of the 4090. So keep that in mind. I'd rather buy a Honda Monkey or DAX before I play a game that needs an RTX 5080 to run on. Yeah, I got you there, bro. Gamers Next. Is that Nexus? Yeah. Did not say anything good about the R7 7700X. Well, maybe because of the price point. Machine. Maybe because of a few more dollars you can get a 7800 XT. Look at the price point. They even had the 7800 XT at $430. $430. And it keeps up with the RTX 4070. You get what I'm saying? So, if it keeps up with the 4070 in rasterization, which you use all the time, ray tracing isn't really your thing. Because if you're using the 6800, you're using more rasterization than you are ray tracing. Period. You know this and I know this. Oh, the 7700X. My bad. I thought you were talking about the GPU. My bad. 7700X. Yeah, but you got to look at it this way. You got the 7700X. You got a decent motherboard. Okay? You got a decent amount of RAM, which you could always go up to 6400 megahertz instead of being down at 5200 or 5400, somewhere in there. Go up to 6400. Get the right RAM that's compatible with Expo. It says on the box you can run it with Intel XMP or you can run it with AMD Expo and run it with Expo. So you got even a better deal there. That 7700X will scream. So, and if you're worried about the draw of the voltage, you can always undervolt the voltage and put it in a negative downslope and run everything normally. So, yeah, but that was the time when AMD Expo memory profile for RAM was considered overclocking, which voids the warranty and Gamers Nexus recommended in i3 12100F, instead being way cheaper. Thing is this. He's well past his warranty stage. If you're using Expo and you undervolt your CPU, I mean the voltage drop, you do a voltage drop on your CPU and keep it right at about 1.2 to about 1.1 volts, you're not voiding the warranty. It's only when you bring the CPU up above 1.4 volts that you got the problem. So, but if you put it on a negative downslope on the voltage, it'll keep it continuous down at between 1.2 and 1.1 volts. So you can do it that way too. You have it at 1.2, then you should be fine. Machine, you should be fine at 1.2. But not, you know, y'all pay attention too much to what that guy was saying. And 9 out of 10 chances, you know, he uses one CPU for 30 whole minutes, and then he's done with it. When it comes to the gaming CPUs, he's only using them for less than 30 minutes, and he puts them on the shelf. Now, what he uses in his system is like Threadripper. That's what he uses in his system, compared to him using like a 7800X3D or a 9800X3D, because he does content creator work. So he uses Threadripper for content creator work, or Epic, one or the other. So you know, he don't even void the warranty my ass. I'm going to say like that. Void the warranty my butt. You can't void the warranty unless you go over 1.4 volts, which can be recognized on the CPU. If you keep it below 1.2 volts on the CPU, it's not an overclock. Using Expo is not an overclock at that point. It's an overclock for your system RAM, but it's not an overclock for your CPU. That's where the mistake is. It does not go over 88 watts. Just like mine. Mine doesn't go over 88 watts. PC Games Hardware Ralph was like, yeah, Steve is a little grumpy now. For several months after Gamers Nexus was angry about the 4070 Ti being $800. Well, he's even more grumpier when he found out the 4070 Ti Super was at $800. So, either way you look at it. He made a poll at the time. You can only choose one, 4070 Ti or being a company that cherishes its customers or something. Dude, you can put many polls out there. Many polls. But the one thing that's going to come down to the end of the day, what is a consumer going to use that he uses on an everyday basis? Playing games, content creator work, or business work, or whatever he uses every day, or she uses every day. Either way. You got to remember, 60% of the people now these days, they buy pre-builts. It might be down to between 40 and 60. I'm just going to say between 40 and 60. They buy pre-builts because they don't want to deal with the headache of doing it yourself. Now, you got between 20 to 30% that might build them themselves. So you see where the market goes. And then you got another little market with your console games that eats up a little bit of the margin. And then you got your 1%ers on the end that only buy a little sliver of the market. So basically, overall, it's not much of a market right now. I clicked 4070 Ti because I don't want to be a company like that. And I was one of the lucky 10%. Yeah. I mean, you can get into the 1%, the 1%, 10%, 30%. What is it? 1%, 39, 49%, and then you got 60%. So somewhere like that, okay? Basically, timeline. Okay. People now these days do not have the time to build full PCs. They either go to Walmart and buy a PC, they either go to online websites like Amazon to buy a PC, or they go to private, builders or whatever. People just don't take the time to do it yourself and build it on their own. That's the reason why the DIY market is getting smaller. And this is the problem that AMD, Nvidia, and Intel is having. Why we only got like a 2% market share. The gamers do. What, 2% or something like that? 2% market share? That's why. Because you only got a certain amount that do DIY. And that's the 40%. So you can be lucky, or you can't be lucky, or you get a good CPU, you hit the lottery on the CPU, or your GPU, you hit the lottery on your GPU, or your RAM, you hit the lottery on that, the silicon lotteries on all of it, and you got everything good to go. To build a whole PC now these days, unless you want to skimp and have a low budget PC, you're going to spend $800. Mid-level PC, you're going to spend $1,500. High-level PC, you're going to spend $3,000. Simple as that. 131K votes, 91% for being a company that customers respect and admire. I was like, yeah, this GPU stacks up nicely versus the best RTX 30 series GPUs at low cost. Yeah, it does. So take the good with the bad, do your homework, see what you want. Either you build it yourself or you have somebody build it for you. In forums, some said I was just hyped because Nvidia is releasing a GPU that is available for purchase. Ha ha ha. Well, you can tell them like this, maybe. Or maybe I'm just watching you get hyped up over the fact that I got hyped up. Ha 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 ha. Get it? So either way you look at it, call it as what it is. Okay, next up, y'all, buckle your seat belts. Next up, we got the 9800 X3D. I want to talk a little bit about that and about this burning situation. Okay, looking at this like the original picture, I guess. We can take and blow it up a little bit, zoom it in. And get it all nicey so y'all can see. Okay. Now, looking at this, the problem is that right here, it's bent right here, and it's broken right here. So, and that's how this happened, right here. Because you can see right here on the pin, you can see looking right here on the pin that it's shifted. tiny bit. It shifted this way. Shifted this way a little bit, wasn't lined up. He put the cooler on, pressed it onto the motherboard, caught the hot pins, caught the ground pins, and caused this little burn mark. Some of the hot pins caught the ground pins. That's pretty much what that means. So, yes, it's an MSI motherboard, believe it or not. It's the MAG 8X870 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. That's what it says. So, damn, I was so mad that I could not buy an RTX 3070 or 3060 Ti Founders Edition. That is still good. Now it is X2D. Okay. But point is this. He says that he's built many of PCs. And there's a first time for everything. That this actually, the connections that were made probably were grounded, hot pins were grounded out and caused the burn marks. So you got to remember, if you ground out and you try to run backwards in a transistor power, if you try to hook the ground up to the hot source and then run the power through the gate, or you run the power through the drain of the transistor, it's going to look just like this. So this is telling me that it hit, the hot sections hit some ground pins. That's what that tells me. Because it's not around here. See this mark right here? See this right here? This right here gives it away. Because it's lighter in color. It looks more smashed. Smashed in this corner here. Looks more smashed. And right here. So you can tell. Right here. Even right around here. If he would have left that on for a little bit longer, right around here, this whole section right here would have took and went on fire. Whole section right here. So, I don't know. That to me, I don't know. That's user error. This right here, this is user error. When you take and you got your motherboard, you put your CPU in there, you line up those pins and make sure they're lined up carefully. As if you don't, then you're going to have that problem. What he did was he put it in there and he closed the lid and then put his cooler on top, 9 out of 10 chances, and then he cranked down the cooler with it being bent out like that, and then he turned it on and poof, it's gone. Just like that. Because he constricted the ground pins to the hot pins. So, yeah. It's going to happen. If you don't watch what you're doing, you know, that mistake can happen. Me being a builder, you know, I watch that very carefully when I'm putting everything into the socket for the CPU. I have yet to have one go up in smoke like that. That is crazy. That is nuts. Yep. Well, no, not in the builder's part because Gamers Nexus bought bought the motherboard and he bought the processor. So basically, he got rewarded. Well, he didn't get rewarded. He didn't lose anything. So he can go buy another one and not make that same mistake again. You know. But that's not a factory defect, guys. What was done there, that's not a factory defect. All depends on what Gamers Nexus finds, and he makes the video on it and says, hey, this is what I found, and obviously it's user error, you know. But that happens. When you're a builder, you have to accept that. If you make a mistake, you have to accept that and move on. So, let's see. Let's see. Hold on. Amazon. Let's see. Amazon. Let's see. Mag X 870 E Tomahawk Wi-Fi. Okay, so let's go to the action screen again. That's $300. So you say $300. Add that on. And then let's say 9800 X3D. Oh, the price came down, guys. It's $458. Let's say $459. Wow, price came down a little bit. It was at 480. Now it's at 459. So you say 459. He's out about $760. Plus shipping and everything else would be about around $800, yes. So, wow. That's a mess. That is a mess. Could I afford to make that mistake? I hope not. I hope not. That's a costly mistake there, bro. So you got to remember something. Your 7700X is compatible with an 800 series motherboard. So I doubt you can make that kind of mistake. Oh, was that a 7800X3D? No. No. Did I? My bad. Glad you caught it. Let's see. Amazon. Thought I put 9800 X3D. Yeah, I did. Oh, my bad. Guess what? You can't, you're not going to be able to buy it now. They're in pre-builts. Wow. Wow. Let's see. Let me go to Newegg. They sold out that fast? Out of stock. Again. Damn. Look at this. They are out. Right here. Out of stock. That's nuts. They just got them in too. They just got them in too. Wow. Within 24 hours, they're gone. They gone. You can get a 9900X for $382. Where you're going to find a 9800X 3D is right here in the $2,000 pre-built. That's where you're going to find it. A Skytech, CyberPower. Or if you're really desperate to get one, let's go to eWaste. I mean eBay. You know, 9800X 3D. There you go. $620. You can get one. $660. $585. $650. $620. Wow. $615. $600. $640. $610. 9800X 3D 8-core, brand new, $450, one bid. I ain't bidding on that crap. $650. They're making it the same price as the 14900K. Because it runs faster than the 14900K. Wow. Nuts. Nuts, nuts, nuts. That is nuts, I can tell you. Scalping, yes. They are... Dude, that page was like almost filled with 9800X 3Ds. That's where they disappeared to. They bought them and they're selling them on eBay. That's the reason why we have a shortage right now. This is nuts. I told you guys this is going to happen. I really did. I told you it was going to happen. 709 over here. Case King says they don't know when the 9800X 3D restocks. Well, they were supposed to restock yesterday. And yes, machine scalping. Scalpers are in full effect. They are draining all the stores that they can get their hands on and putting them on eBay, upping the price. They're cornering the market. As soon as they come out, boom, they're gone. They're on eBay. So it might not have taken maybe about 4 hours before they turned around and bought them up all off of Amazon, Newegg, you know. Ones you can't, where you can't buy it, where they can't buy it and you can get it, it's probably Micro Center. Let's look at Micro Center real quick. That's got me interested. Google Chrome. Let's see what Micro Center is all about. I'll take you all along with me real quick. So, let's go to Micro Center. All right. Let's see what Micro Center does. Wow. Look at that combo. That's nice. Look at that. They got a combo right there. Top deals. Wow. 12900K. Let's go backwards. I don't like the deals. AMD bundles. 7600X, $300. So if you got a Micro Center close to you, they get a 650M-A Prime motherboard, which doesn't have the heat sinks on it, I don't think. I could be wrong, but they might not have the heat sinks on it. 7600X, 16 gigabytes of DDR5, 3-in-1 combo, $300. $29 more, 9600X. And for a couple bucks more, Asus B650 Plus Tough Gaming Wi-Fi. That's even better. The 9600X. That's not bad. For $369.99. Comes with 16 gigabytes of DDR5. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Okay. Moving backwards. Okay. Motherboard upgrades only $50. So that means oh, that must be for that deal. Okay, so this is what we're looking for, the 9800X 3D. Okay, let's see. $479 and they're in stock. Special savings with 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 RAM plus motherboard savings. Let's see about that. So, you can get a bundle deal for $700 and you can get all this for $700 and get DDR5 6000 megahertz RAM. It's even nice they give you the timing. And they give you a choice of motherboards. Looks like they give you a choice of motherboards too. Says AMD A620 blah blah blah. But what motherboard are they giving you that goes with this? That's what I want to know. What's the motherboard they give you? I hope it's not a B650. That would be shellacking me. Yep, B650-E Tough Gaming Wi-Fi. Okay, that's still not bad. That's still not bad. 32 gigabytes of DDR5. Yeah, that's not too bad. Get a whole game system. And all you got to do is add your all you got to do is add your case, your power supply, your SSD drive. So it might cost you less than $900 for a PC like that with the 9800X 3D. Damn, that's even a better deal. I don't know what y'all think, but I think that's a better deal. You know, I think that's a better deal. All right. Enough blowing our minds for like 10 minutes. So, I don't know what you all think. You tell me. I mean, I don't think it's a bad deal. That's at Micro Center. I mean, you know, I know some people don't have Micro Center. I do understand that. But some people do, and the ones that do, that watch this live stream or that are on the live stream right now, it looks like, you know, for $900 you can get yourself, you know, a decent case with airflow and all that, and, you know, SSD, and all you got to do is plug in Windows 11, in which that's not hard, and maybe go to CD key sales or whatever and get yourself like a $15 or $20 CD key. I don't see anything wrong with that. So you still staying about around $900. So let's say you already got a case, you already got a 800 watt power supply, just be on the safe, 800 watt power supply. You already got a discrete graphics card. So, and if you want to upgrade your system, I mean, you could probably do it maybe $800, maybe less. Well, I would say about $800 to get you in that right direction. So, instead of upgrading your GPU, you can upgrade your CPU with a new motherboard and get something that's more powerful, that's highly better for gaming. You know, it's got its perks. The 9800 X3D's got its perks. So, it is the king of all. So, if you don't want to invest your money and buy another graphics card and you got one that's pretty decent, then, you know, think about upgrading your motherboard, your CPU, and your RAM, and try that with your graphics card. Even if you got a 6000, 7000 series AMD graphics card, or if you got a 30 series or 40 series graphics card, you should be all right. Okay, $16.99 system with CPU and 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, and Windows 11. Yeah, but if you think about it, you spend what, $700? About $750 with tax here in the US, and you got a decent case with airflow and everything else. You just take out your old one, you put in your new, hook everything back up the way you had it before. $30, get a Windows 11 key. No, and I got a Windows 10 key and upgraded to Windows 11. I was forcibly upgraded to Windows 11. So, you can always go that route too. Ah, yes, and RTX 4060 from Media Market, something similar to Micro Center. Well, if you look at it like this, man, if the 9800 X3D is going to be more powerful than this, which it is, it's the king of the market right now. And if you add your RX 6800 to it, who's to say that won't bring up the FPS level? Who's to say it won't give you more of a kick? So you got to think about it like that too, you know what I mean? I think Micro Center deal is somewhat attractive, but of course, many gamers can wait until the CPU is widely available again. Yeah, you can wait a couple months until the price comes down, and maybe you'll get it on a flash sale, in a combination sale at Amazon or Newegg or something, because Amazon's got a Black Friday coming up. Not unless it's already going on now, but I think it's the 21st or something like that. That you could probably get it on a flash sale. Then, who knows? Maybe you get it for a couple $100 less. But the only way you're going to get a 9800 X3D right now is if you buy it in a combo package. That's the only way you're really going to get it right now. Because if you go to buy it individually, you're not going to be able to get your hands on it. But they got it in a combo package. I will have to look at it. Well, all I can say is, I mean, Micro Center's got some good deals, and you know they're going to have the 9800 X3Ds. So, if you got one that's like a couple hours away from you, I would think about taking a drive down there and see what they really got, so that way you can take your time and look at all the parts they got, pick up what you want, and go from there. So, that would be a good plus, you know, to do something like that. Me, I would have to drive 6 hours. I would have to drive 6 hours to get to one and drive 6 hours back. So, buying a motherboard I want and use a box Ryzen 5 7600 might be great. Start when waiting for 9800 X3D. Problem, I expect the main board prices to drop as well. Yeah, I'm waiting to see if the 800 series motherboards are going to drop in price, and I'm waiting to see if the 9800 X3D is going to drop in price before I decide to buy. Because if I can get it in a combo pack for like 500 and some bucks, then guess what? I can upgrade my whole PC with the RAM, 32 gigs of RAM, and then have a little bit of extra money over to where I can get another 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM and plug it in. So that way I got 4 sticks like I got here. I got 64 gigs. I want 64 gigs with the new system. Simple as that. I'm not running 32 gigs or 16 gigs. I'm running 64 gigs of RAM, period. I have had no problems running 64 gigs. That's what I'm hell-bent on, and that's what I'm sticking to. Now, everybody can sit there and cry, complain, and whatever else and say, oh, if you run 4 sticks, it's going to cut your performance down. Oh, yeah, okay. I haven't had that happen yet. So, yep, pretty much so. Same gig of 64 gig capacity and more speed. Exactly. That's basically how it runs downhill. So, if I can get it 6400 megahertz or microtransfers or whatever. That means the F clock's going to run at what? 3200 megahertz. The F clock should be running at 3200 megahertz. And guess what? On my AM4 rig that I got here is 3200 megahertz. So I'm actually getting a true 3200 megahertz on AM5. If I go with 64 6400 megahertz RAM. So I'll get a true 3200 megahertz per stick, hopefully. Or if it's 1600 megahertz per stick, depending on how they split it on the motherboard. Could be 3200 megahertz each stick. Paired. So you got 32 and 32, you get 64. So you're still running in dual channel, which would be considered quad channel. If you thought about it, it would still be considered quad channel. But in a sense, it's still dual channel, the way they call it. But anyway. So 64 gigs of RAM and quad channel, dual channel, whatever you want to call it. I'll be happy with that. DDR5. So, you got to understand, with your RAM, you're running 4 sticks. It equals the power between all 4 sticks. So that way, your sticks will run cooler instead of running 2 compared to 4. Running 4, they're going to run a lot cooler than 2 sticks. Not a lot of people understand that too, but I guess I have to make that clear. 64 gigs of RAM for laptops used to start sub 1,000 euros, but now starts at 1,600 euros. They sold the attractive models, and now everyone waits for the new generation. Yep, I agree. Everybody's waiting. I'm not waiting for the 9000 series. I'm waiting for what comes beyond the 9000 series. Because this next series is supposed to be on the same motherboard is going to be running that next new generation. And after that, we don't know. So, I'm waiting to see what they got on the 10,000 series processors for AMD. I'm just going to say 10,000 or 10K series. You know, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Who knows what they're going to have? Because obviously it looks as it looks, they did not shrink like they were supposed to. The nanometers is still at 5 nanometers. They still didn't shrink it down enough. I thought it was at 4 nanometers, but obviously not. They're still at 5 nanometers. So that's a big difference. I don't think they can get down to 3 nanometers, and I think that's where they're having the problem. Getting the components down to 3 nanometers is going to be really hell in the cell, because they're not going to be able to control it. That'll put them in a new kind of fashion, having all those transistors so close together. They'll start magnetizing and flipping the poles. So it's crazy how it's crazy. But not unless they got some kind of isolation in between those transistors, they're going to be flipping poles, and they're not going to work right. Just like they did on the space shuttle when they created those manual transistors, made them by hand transistors. That was even crazier. You guys got to watch the documentary on how they built the computers for the space shuttle. That's kind of, to believe how far we are now compared to what they had to go through back then. In my era, you would imagine, so a little bit different, a little bit scarier, I think. So, anybody got any questions or concerns or anything else? Let me know in the chat. Let me know. But like I said, we're going to see how, and I'm just going to finalize it. It's getting close to the time. So let's recap a little bit. Okay. 9800X3D. We don't know if that actually is user error or if it's mechanical error. We don't know either way which one is going to go because pictures don't tell 100% of the story. So we don't know the 100% of the story. It's only going to define 50% of the story. So we'll have to wait and see if Gamers Nexus puts something out because he's the one that's buying the motherboard and the CPU. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. He's going to do his investigation and let everybody know, and I'll let y'all know from what I'm, taking in for information on that. As far as the 5090, we don't know how the pricing's going to go. That's a little bit up and down. We'll know when it gets closer to time, when it gets closer to January. Jensen's probably not going to reveal it because he's going to save it for a big blow-up sale on CES in January. So we don't know what's going to happen there. As far as AMD, when it comes to a new GPU, just like Intel, they're both looking on a shaky scale. So if they come out with one GPU for next year, and they don't sell well, something tells me that it's going to come down to the factor of if AMD is going to walk away from the GPU line. Just like it looks like Intel might be walking away as well. So, okay, we wait for Intel fix Arrow Lake. Yeah, we wait for that. Because obviously the 9800X3D is kicking the pants off of it. Also, graphics cards, yep. RX 8000 series, we don't know. AMD's not really spitting out any information right now, so we don't really know. Hello, pseudoscientist. Good to see you, good to see you. I first thought user error, but how did it get hot if it's not seated correctly? Well, it got hot for the simple fact if the ground pins and the hot pins aren't matched up correctly, you can slide it to where the ground pins are touching the hot pins. See, the grounds on the motherboard got to go from ground to ground and hot to hot. Now, if you slide a ground onto a hot pin, and that's energized by another hot pin, then boom, you're going to have sparks. You're going to have burn marks. So, that's okay. That's all right. Good to see you. Good to see you. But that's basically how it comes down to it. Each pin is either a hot or a ground. It's either a data line, a hot, or a ground. So, with us not having that schematic, and with it just being inched just a little bit over the wrong way, which it was, because you could tell by the marks on where the pins line, where the CPU lines up with the pins in the socket for the motherboard is a little bit bent, and also with the broken little edge tells me that he put a cooler on there and cranked it down. So that's simple as that. And he turned it on and he shot probably 850 to 1,000 watts through that motherboard And that's it. It's the end of the story. So, yeah, the resistance becomes too high if the CPU is not aligned properly with the socket. Yep, exactly. So, basically that's what happened. Just one pin off, and that's how it smokes. So, 5 other reviewers are saying the same thing. But I wasn't there to see it. I'm just giving you my opinion on how I saw it on the picture. That was my, takeaway from it. And plus, him saying on a message that it might have been his error, that kind of, led to that point. So, yeah. That wasn't seated correctly. He locked it down. He put a cooler on top of it and bent it down just enough to touch those pins on the motherboard, between the motherboard and the CPU, and boom, it's out. Fire, fire, fire. So, at least he got his money back. I guess that, Gamers Nexus is going to buy it because they're going to do a story on it, because they want to see if it's a manufacturer error, because MSI is looking to see and want to know if it's their error on their part with their motherboard, since it's their motherboard. AMD is also interested in it too. They're all right now looking at this. So they're all taken into account and looking at this. Now, there was another claim that there was another person that had something similar problem with their 9800X3D. So, I don't know. If you're getting a second claim, I'm still waiting to see if there's going to be a third claim. Once you get 5 claims on a new product, then that means there's a problem. So, right now I haven't seen 5 claims yet. Guys, no need to worry. Just watch in a couple builds videos, and you'll be fine when you're doing it yourself. Yeah, as long as you don't, put it in the wrong way in the socket, yeah, you'll be fine. So, you shouldn't be able to miss or go outside the boundary. Others will repeat the mistake. Well, obviously, with that motherboard, you can. That's the point. With that motherboard, you can. So, that's kind of the problem. You shouldn't, because of the way the socket's made, but, they don't have nothing to reinforce the bottom side of that socket. They do have it coming over the socket, but they don't have anything to reinforce the bottom piece of the socket itself. They don't have nothing to hold that socket and the bottom in the right position. It's just plastic. So I see that as a problem too. Let's do this real quick. Let me go back, pull up Google Chromies, and pull up the history. Let's see. Okay. Let's do this. Let's pull it up again. Bring you guys here. Okay. Now, if we want to look at it really closely, let's pull it up really close. Yep, it's exactly what he did. Yep. Because that's blue right there, so yeah. Okay. So yeah. Definitely. Is in the wrong position. But look at the socket here. This is all plastic. This is where it was broke. Let's see. Pull this up again. Right here, it's all plastic. Broke right here, and it's bent right here. Should look like this over here. See this right here? Should look like this right here over here. So, since it don't look like that, and that's broke right there, that's kind of an indicator right there, I think. See. Tech needs more wins. People are losing faith, in my opinion. Yeah, I do agree. Machine says, so if it does not seat perfectly, then it is done. Pretty much, yes, because the pins are so small and they fit just on those pads. Right here, these pads. See how much space you got in between those pads? You have basically a hair of space. A hair of space in between those pads. That's it. About a hair of space. So if you seat that just wrong, that's what's going to happen. Let's see. We only know because of the confidence we got when building a system successfully, my 2 cents. Yeah, bro, I don't have that problem. I can seat, I can seat one of those with no problem. Because you do what they call just a minor, the little bit of jiggle test. I call it the little bit of jiggle test. It's where... you take and you got your socket right here, you got your CPU, you got, you do this, you don't push hard, you do it very lightly, you do what they call a jiggle test. And if it doesn't move either way, and then when you put down that top and you lock it in, it should not move. It should stay right on, directly on the socket. It should not move whatsoever. But when you put it in wrong, that's what happens. You wind up with this. This is what you wind up with if it's seated wrong. So this is a good example for everybody to make sure when you seat your GPUs, or not your CPUs in the socket. Make sure it's orientated the right way, so that way you don't have this problem. Simple said and put. Putting the CPU in the socket is a great feeling. I do agree. 100%. I do agree with that. Does the Mobo give you a warning when you turn it on? Oh yeah, it gives you a big warning. It's like a puff of smoke. Poof. That's about the biggest warning you're going to get. Poof. The regulators are designed for each one of those pins. Not seating your CPU in correctly, not seating the CPU in the socket correctly It's just going to go poof. That's it. If there is a problem with the CPU and it's put in the socket correctly, then there's a problem with the CPU. But seating it the wrong way, there's no safeguards. It's just gonna, that power is just gonna hit it in the beginning, because that's the first thing it's checking is your CPU. It's just gonna hit that power in the beginning, and that's when it goes poof. So like a socket CPU should have a guide. They do have a guide. It's when you don't pay attention to how you seated your CPU is when you get this problem. They didn't pay it. He probably was on the phone or something like that, got busy, wasn't paying attention, and then boom, it happened. It happens. It's an accident, the way I look at it. But that's a big $800 accident too. There are motherboard speakers that give sound according to the system status or if it's problems. Not necessarily. Some motherboards hit that power right to the CPU and then they go right to the system RAM. Now, some motherboards will test the system RAM first, and if the CPU is not seated right, yeah, it will give that audible sound if you have it connected on a speaker. New motherboards don't come connected with the speaker. I know some pre-built computers don't come with the speaker. So you would never know until you smell the smoke. So I think there should be a voice on the motherboard that tells you it's in correctly. No, they should have seating markers on there to where it won't allow you to push the top arm down and lock it if it's seated wrong. You should not be able to lock that arm down at all if it's seated wrong. There should be a little catch that says, hey, CPU's not in there correctly. Reseat your CPU. That's the way it should be. But I'll tell you like this. I like the ones where the pins are sticking out. The PGA. I think it's PGA. I like it where the pins, you push it into the motherboard and then lock it down. More direct contact, I think. So. Impossible to plug in wrong socket or plug in correctly. So I'll say build design error. It has to be idiot proof. Nothing is pseudoscientist. That's the problem. Everything has a catch to it. No matter what it is, it always has a catch. Yeah, Intel and AMD right now are LGA, land grid array. AMD used to be PGA, pin grid array, which I'm using now on my processor, so I don't have to worry about that. If it's got a bent pin, guess what happens? The CPU won't seat correctly, and you'll see it. It's obvious. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I'm going to get me something to eat and stuff like that. So, I hope to God you guys never have this problem with your 9800 X3D. I really do. Because that would be the utmost kick in the teeth in the world. You know. Let's all hope for better days. Have some nice meals. Thanks. Thanks, MTBK. Thanks, Machine. Thanks, Pseudoscientist. You guys have a great day. Be safe. And I'm going to get out of here. So, until then, we'll see you on the next one.